is always to sit on the uncomfortable chair.
In silence. Here we are. So good evening everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It's a great honor to be here tonight with Marco Anelli and Marina Abramović of the occasion of the re-edition of the book Portraits in the Presence of Marina Abramović. So exactly 10 years ago, almost, yeah, more than 10 years.
12 years ago.
Oh my God, 12 years ago. Artist is Present really changed the landscape of art, I would say, globally. The exhibition of the 6th floor, and in particular the performance in the atrium, became really a shifting moment in the way of understanding performance, also in the way of understanding and also the way art performance entered art history. It was also an incredible endeavor. 3 months, 716 hours, and 1,000...
And 30 minutes.
And 13 minutes? Yeah, you know the numbers. And 1,545 people that were photographed by Marco. So the book is this amazing document. It's an amazing object of portraits, of those portraits. And the new edition is also updated with some unprecedented photos, like from backstage and also backstage of the performances. And, you know, and also I would also like to mention, Marina, the show that you're having at Sean Kelly in this moment, which is also about this project. And I think because you work so closely on this project that maybe it would be interesting to know, how did you meet? How did it start even before the artist is present?
Okay.
Two versions. First, Marco.
Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. I would like to briefly say some thanks. So thanks, Anna, thanks to MoMA, to all MoMA staff, thanks to Glenn Laurie, Klaus Biesenbach, Samantha, Erika, and special thanks to Damiani Publisher, in particular to Andrea Albertini, who is not anymore with us, because he was the first person 10 years ago that believed in this book. So thanks again, Andrea, and thanks to Silvia, Eleonora, Enrico, Lorenzo, and Milenia. Thanks to also Chrissy Ales for her beautiful test, and another special thanks to Tommaso Sacconi, who redesigned this book. We worked together 1 year and a half making a new edition of the portraits, and then thank you again. It was great. Thank you. Actually, Tommaso. It's for you. Tommaso is also who did this video, so thanks again. And we met, and thank you, Marina. Thank you. You can have imagine is always a great experience to work with her. There is always something to learn from her. So thanks once again. Thanks. Thank you. And we met in 2007 in Rome because I wanted to take a portrait of her. We have some common friends, so when I had a chance to meet her, I immediately asked if I could take a portrait of her, and she gave me only 10 minutes. So I can tell you, the timing was not my main concern. It was more about my idea of her portrait. So when we met the day after, she was well prepared for the portrait with a nice dress, nice makeup, hairstyle. And then it was even more embarrassing for me because my idea was not to take a portrait of her face, but to take a photograph only about her scars that she got during her performance all over her body. And she reacted in a great way. And we worked for 3 hours about that. And from that moment on, we started to collaboration. It was great.
My version? So this is that great, good-looking young photographer. And he say he want the photo and photo and photo. And, you know, I was already in relationships and I was like, it was so complicated. So I said, no time, no time, no time. And then one day, okay, he's really insist because he doesn't take no for answer. And then say, okay, I give you 10 minutes. So I made my hair, wash freshly in the morning, put lipstick and all that. He comes with this huge camera, the kind of lens that you use for the, to film on the football stadiums, the football matches. And then I say, what I should do now in the front of the camera? But say, I'm totally not interested in your face. I'm only interested in your scars. And I was so jealous immediately because this is such a good idea and it was not coming from me. It was his idea. And I said, that's such an amazing idea. So he made these photographs, from Rhythm Zero when I been cut by the audience, with the knife, they're working with the knives, my star on the 5-point star for the Rhythm 5 performances, so on, plenty of scars. And when he really enlarged them, these photographs, it was incredible. It was like a galaxies. It was like a black holes. It was like all universe there. And this was a real portrait of me, much more than anything they will do on my face. And this is really beginning of real friendship.
That's a great story. And I think that, because photographing the scars is also something pretty intimate, no? And then the performance that you did in the atrium was somehow very public and very intimate at the same time. The fact of confronting so many people, like being just the two of you, but also being surrounded by so many people. And basically, Mark, you worked together, like you were almost like a performer in a way, because you both, in different ways, you didn't shy in having like endurance experiences, but how did you prepare for like following Marina? Because she's more of a veteran of these kind of situations, and because you were there every day, every hour of the performances.
Yes, when we start to have some collaboration, one of my goals was to carry out a photography project on her performance. And when she was working on The Artist is Present, I thought that was a great chance for me. So we met a few months before. She told me about her idea, her concept of The Artist is Present. So I proposed to her to photograph everybody. I want to photograph the public because the public is always be a part of Marina work. Above all, in this performance, when the public was involved in Marina Abramović performance. And I want also to photograph everybody because she was doing this performance in New York, which is one of the biggest melting pot in the world. So for me, it was also a chance to photograph all the different kind of people, different kind of culture together. So I tried to combine photographic performance documentation and photographic project. And then she was definitely enthusiastic about this one. And how I prepare, usually as every project, the most important thing is to get as much information you can. But you never know what is going to be in the moment you're going to start. Because then you realize, for example, in this project, I thought about this portrait in black or white, because I used to photograph in black or white. And when I start, I realized that if I had used the black or white for this project, I would have missed so many information, like the color of the eyes, the hair, the skin. And so after 1 week that I photographed in black and white, I switched and I re-edit all the pictures in color. And this is my first book in color. So I was prepared, but you never know when you start the project what's going on.
Marina, how was with you working with, you have many people working with you, and also now that we are having those portraits going on the screen, I would also like to mention when you came here, the two of our security guards were here, and there was like this incredible like joy of seeing each other and like hugging each other, because by the way, sorry, I'm a curator here in the media and performance department, and from my experience, performance artists, there's something really incredible that happened, and I think Marina with you was really like the apotheosis of that. There is this feeling with all of us in the museum that we have someone else working with us. It's really like work, so you're there also at work. And so, but how was for you, Marina, the fact that Marco was there every day with you, like every day, and also because just it almost as he's between you and the person in front of you and the audience.
But first of all, I have to go a little bit back into 70s. When they really start performance art, we didn't really have any experience how to document anything. And we especially, as an artist, didn't give any instructions to video or photographer how to actually record or register the work. So you will have the performance of maybe 1 hour or maybe 2 hours, and photographer will come without any knowledge what's going to happen, because most of the time, sometimes artist doesn't have strict instruction about his works. So he didn't know himself either. So the photographer will start looking and making photograph maybe from the middle, 3 times from the left, maybe from the top. Then he will go out and smoke cigarette, come back, have coffee, and then record, performance is happening. So the documentation actually was never completed and was always different than actually what a performance was about. And then on the end, you will ask photographer to give you documentation, or you look the photographs, and you pick up 1, 2, or 3 images who really record at least the concept. Or you don't pick up anything because everything is not to be used at all. So to me, I spent also the same attention about the concept of the performance and how going to be registered. This registration was extremely important to me. A part of we have video cameras recording everything live. We also, Marco, talking with him, his presence is unique historically in any performance art, because there is no one ever photographer who was there 716 hours and 30 minutes every single moment. So he had the same restrictions I had. He can move, but he can't go to the toilet because somebody will sit, immediately, and he will miss the recording, or how he going to eat, or when to drink the water, all this kind of stuff. So the involvement was psychological, but also emotional, because we was going through so much emotions, and every person was bringing more emotions to the table. And then also, this is very particular performance, because we had a public who observing, public who waiting, public who is sitting, is always one-to-one. So we have the intimacy and the group experience in the same time.
And where were you, Marco, exactly? What was your position in relation to Marina and the person in front and the audience? How did you move?
Yes, at the beginning, my main concern was to not affect in any way the performance, because before this experience, I used to work on Accademia Nazionale Santa Cecilia, which is photographing, which is the equivalent of Carnegie Hall here in New York, photographing classical music conductor. In that experience, I realized how the photographer presence could be a nuances, could be dangerous for the performance. So I want to be in certain way invisible. So I decided to use this big telephoto, which is a telephoto the photographer used for sport. So I could stay few meter outside the square. But physically, I was very far. But at the same time, I was next to Marina in a certain way, because this lens allowed me to photograph the face of everybody who was in front of her. And this allowed me also to photograph the intimacy that was between Marina and every single participant.
How many? Oh, go ahead, Maria.
I just want to ask you the question, Marco, just how you actually get this idea, the moment that there's so many people crying, but you photograph the role of the tear and all the story about this. Tell me a little bit, that the tear reached the lens, the light of the lens.
Yes, it was, okay, I have a few goals in this project. One of the goals that I want to photograph everybody, because performance has rules. I want to have also the rules. And my rules was to photograph everybody. I didn't want to miss any of them. And but the second goal was to try to represent the emotional. The people that cry at the climax of the emotion for me, the most strong emotion. So the digital camera, the back screen of the digital camera allow you to even more zoom on the face. So I put the eyes on the back screen just to check when the tears were increasing, to try to photograph in the moment that the tears was in the middle of the cheek. For me, that was the best picture because it represents the most intense moment of that performance.
And it's also the rule, in a way, it was that people could come and sit as long as they want. There were no restrictions in terms of time. So people could sit from a minute to, how much was the longest?
Now we come to the
The
real question.
Yeah.
The record,
Okay.
7
had-
hours. 7 hours. 7.
This was the longest.
Is
And we have the person in the audience. Let me just talk about little
Yeah.
about this.
Where
You
is
know
he?
he's
Paco?
here. Yeah, but first
can't
of all,
see.
this restriction, it was so. The idea was there was no restriction, but you could not talk to me, you could not touch me, you could not do any of this. Only the thing that you can do, sit in the front of me and engage in the gaze. That's all. But the amount of time is all up to you. So the maximum sitting is 8 hours during the day because museum is open from 10 to 8 and on 10 to 6, but on the Friday it's open 2 more hours, which is 10 hours. And that was like hell, that 2 hours extra. This was something that was so hard. But then, already second or third day came the person and sit there and, there's a long waiting line, 7 hours. And then this person miraculously start coming back, shorter period of times, and sit entirely 21 hours. This was such an incredible emotional because when we finish this performance, and I know him, I think that I knew him more than I would know my brother, my lover, or anybody else. Because with the gaze is the really door of the soul. You actually know the person in the deepest possible way. So it was so funny after the performance, he introduced himself and we could not even talk because, my name is Paco, your name is Marina, but we knew each other and there's nothing to say anymore. Paco, can you stand up, please? Paco, stand up. And then he tattooed 21, number on his arm. But not only that, during this performance, there was a group of people around the work who start coming every day and continued coming every day. And Paco gave me a fantastic present. He gave me, how many people, 74 or something? 75 people actually came there more than 12 times, and these people wrote several more times, wrote actually the impressions, and they make a unique book for me about these impressions. And these people create kind of club, they will meet each other monthly, and because something in this piece really changed their life. And the most touching for me also, there was 36 guards of this museum, normally who, guarded the artworks, sculptures and paintings and videos. And they go home, they change their uniform, come back and wait in the line to sit with me. I don't think that any artist experienced this kind of stuff ever.
No, definitely not. And I came to the museum after the artist is present, and I can, from talking to my colleagues, it's definitely, you could felt at the time, and you can still feel it, how this project changed the institution. And changed it really on many levels, in relation to performance, in relation to, I think people understood what does it mean to take care also of other people. And one thing in particular everyone mentions, that nobody expected such a success. That in a way, the museum was not at the beginning equipped for receiving so many people, because they are also in the film, you see people really like rushing when the museum is opening, like rushing, sleeping outside. So how the two of you, did you expect something like this? What was your way of coping? Because as you said, it was highly emotional and also in a certain sense like a good pressure, but like understanding that the effect is huge. And I think the effect was not just in New York and at MoMA, it was really global. I think everybody in the world knew what was going on at the time in the museum. It's something that really, as I said, it's like a performance, it's something that globally shifted performance and art in relation to institution and audience?
Yes, it was very interesting because at the beginning, the situation, the atmosphere in the atrium was pretty calm. There was always some people, definitely always some people in the line, but the people at that time, the MoMA visitors, were more interested in the marine exhibition on the last floor, and also in the Patron exhibition that was pretty successful. And then slowly, day by day, the attention of the people move on the atrium until the last day when the people at the opening in the morning ran in the museum. One of my favorite pictures of this performance was Marina waiting for the first sitter. In the back, you can see the people run inside. And then the line became long and long until the people sleep in front of the museum. I never saw something like that. At the moment, it's true, the guards, they adapt in this crazy situation. It was totally unexpected. But we got so much energy in the end. It was definitely great to finish the performance.
You know, Klaus Biesenbach came with the idea, the curator of the show, to call the show Artist is Present. He wanted to show reperformance of the old pieces, and he wanted to show the video works and photography where I am always present, and because I am the kind of work itself. But that was his title of the show. But when he told me this title, you know, sometimes in old style exhibitions in 50s and 60s, you have the opening of the paintings and they say art is going to be present for the opening. And I was thinking, I'm going to take this chance to show transformative power and energy of performance art. And in the museum context, because till then, performance art was no mainstream art, no was that at all. And then what if I'm going to sit there and absolutely entire time during the show. And the atrium was such a perfect place because atrium is a great place but also very difficult. It's like a tornado. They're going to the cafeteria, they're going to the library, the people going to the first floor, second floor, exhibition, and so on. And it's all movement, movement, movement. And I wanted to be like kind of eye of tornado, like a stillness in the middle. And as Marco said, that was true. Everybody was rushing to sixth floor and I was kind of seeing 3, 4 people passing by and go on. But important, and then Klaus said to me, but you know, this chair is going to be empty all the time because we are in New York, nobody have time here. And what you're going to do, just sit there? I say, I will sit no matter what. Empty chair, no empty chair. I'm sitting the entire duration of the, of the time of the opening every day. And then the people start stopping. They don't believe. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. First months I was dressed in blue, which I need to be calm. Second month I dressed in red, just to get energy. And that was the most difficult second month. I had so much pain on my body that I couldn't even be massaged or touched or did anything. It was like I was just in pain. And then the second one, the last month was in white. But the people start coming and coming and coming. And the really durational work is transformative form of work, which I discovered during that piece. Because it's not only that you are changing, but you're changing public with this. And for entire show in MoMA, at that time to preparation, I only had one person to help me, which is right here, Davide Bagliano, who at that time was a young artist working with me. After the MoMA show, he said, I am done. Now I'm going to my own work. This was the hardest thing we done. You know, even a middle career artist and tenor assistant, I had that just you, and I will never forget our time together. Belliano, can you stand up, please? No, come on. To me, very important. Thank you.
It was nice because we used to go every day together at MoMA. Marina and Davide used to pick me up in my place. We go to the museum, and after we live together, also together. We were three musketeers. We usually say that.
But I also imagine it requires so much focus, no? It's like 3 months, you are like Olympics. There is nothing else. Like, you know, you're like there every day, and also I think to keep this energy among you. And because how was also, Marco, because as you said, Marina, you were like there and something was happening, a lot was happening between you and the audience, and you were like, because someone would sit 1 minute, like how much photo would you take? Like when someone is sitting 5 minutes and someone 7 hours.
In total, I took 80,000 photographs, which is an average of more than 1,000 photographs every day.
You never told me this. So much. Wow.
Why we have those events, you know, they're always something.
I changed my camera after this performance because it was, anyway. So,
You mean they're really worn out?
yeah, something like that. And but I usually used to take a photograph as soon as the sitter sit in front of her, because I didn't know how long they are gonna stay. They could stay a few minutes or 7 hours. So but usually the picture that I took at the beginning, a 9 out of 10 was not the final selection, because the people, when they sit in front of Marina, the first minutes they were very nervous. So I immediately took a picture because I want to have all of them, but then I waiting a few minutes, sometimes even more, and then when I see the face start to be relaxing, I get in the performance, I start to photograph, take a picture. And every day when I come back home, I work on the selection, the picture every night, and edit, because I want to have the images ready the next day for the MoMA website. So for 3 months, yes, we work totally only on this, without, I didn't have a social life, but I'm an introvert, so I was fine with that. But the most difficult part was more about the selection about the book that we did together also in this selection, because was not an option to realize a book with all the portraits. So we had to make a selection. So in this book there are 3 sections. One is with the picture about Marina performance at the backstage. Another section with all the small picture of everybody with the number and the timing of the performance. And then there is this 100 picture of the portraits, and we try to make this selection to represent all different kind of people and all different kind of the emotion, but was very difficult, this one, because with more than 1,500 portraits, there are thousands of different selections possible. So this was the most difficult part of this project.
But it was so conceptual that you actually measure every single, the first photograph, every single person, second, tell exactly the time, you know, of how many minutes or hours sit in the front. So it's a really kind of honest, the kind of, how you call it, show of the labor, how it was done. You know, there was nobody miss, very democratic.
Yeah, it was very democratic. Also let the people decide how long to stay seated. This was very fascinating for me. I like it. I like to see the portrait and also to see how long every people they sit.
And also when you look at the book, it's interesting because you're like recognizing some actors, some singers, and then, you know, like audience of the museum. There is this democratic feature that you mentioned. You can feel it also in the book, because there was this thing of being the same. So everybody comes and sit, and there is no privilege in a way.
Yes, it was super democratic, because you can I photograph people like students, tourists, famous musicians like Lou Reed, like Michael Stipe, and then Hollywood star, and then lawyer, every kind of people, all with the same role and the same chair. This was definitely a beautiful side of this performance.
And Marina, Marco just said when people would sit in front of you, they would be nervous. Would you feel this nervousness? Because you prepared a lot for that, and it's also a result of many years of work. It didn't just come overnight, what you did. But how was the first interaction with the with the person in front of you, and then going on with the time that was passing? I know you would close the eyes between each of the sitter.
It's you know, you develop kind of the experience doing it. You know, I came there without knowing what I'm going to expect at all. It was very important for me to have dressed large enough. It was, you know, from wool, that I was warm, because it was always wind. This was important. Then I also was thinking that probably I will build something in a seat that I can pee if I need to pee, because I was afraid of that. But after 3 days, I realized I will never do any of this, that I really kind of just put the cushion and that was it. So then physical situation was kind of okay. And then I realized again, after a few days, that I made the huge mistake, that I didn't make handles on the chair, because I like to be very monastic, uncomfortable, and simple. This was really the big the fail of me, because if I had these hands, I could really hold myself better, because after hours and hours and hours, you start sinking, and you literally, your ribs go into your stomach, and pain of the back is unbearable, and it's all different, problems comes. So then I realized, again, through the experience, that actually, when you're not moving from outside the world, but inside your body, there's so much space that you can move in, but you only can do this with experience doing it. And there's a space between lungs and ribs. There is a space between liver and kidney. There is a space between intestines. That all is this stuff that actually you can visualize the movement without actually moving. All of these things I was busy with myself. Then I changed my entire, the food intake. I eat by night and pee in the night and drink water, so that during the day I don't have the problem with the acids coming to my stomach and having blood sugar dropping down. So this took me almost 1 year. So all of this preparation took place. And then finally I sit, and then they come the person. And then it's incredible what's happening there, because that person is waiting for a while to come to sit in front of me. And he's nervous because this person first is observed by the video camera, observed by the other people, looking at him, observed by me, observed by Marco, and he's nowhere to go, only into himself. And then finally, you need time that he settle, and the person settle, and then the gaze start. And you know what is interesting about gaze? When you don't talk, you really start looking. Because when you talk, you have your own, the train of thoughts. Other person is answering, you have his train of thoughts. It's kind of going two like curtains in the front of you. Nobody see each other who really he is. But when it's talking, it stops, and anything else stops, and it's only gaze left. This incredible amount of emotions comes. The loneliness, the suffering, the pain, that whatever is happening in this person is there. And then when this person leaves, I take everything in. So sometimes I cry with them, sometimes I feel all this. I have to close my eyes, I have to empty myself completely and breathe deeply, and then to be ready for the next person. I can't keep experience of the first one, to the next one. Constantly emptying, getting in, constantly emptying, getting in. Wow, it was work.
I read somewhere preparing for tonight that when you look someone in the eyes for so long, it's like to kiss, fight.
Or run.
Or run, I think it's, yeah.
For more than 7 seconds, if you look each other's eyes, something happened like fight, kiss, or run. But she overrode everything. That's why the people had this kind of strong emotion, because she overrode these rules.
Were you both expecting those kind of emotions, like the tears that you mentioned?
I really went there with totally open mind. The idea was being present here and now every single day, and whatever happened will happen. And that was the whole thing I've been doing. One thing that really irritates me, all our masks that we have in the faces, because, I have the audience, they give me so much love, and I felt so much love for them that now, when people have masks, I don't recognize half of the people. But without mask, people go on the street, we just see each other, and we know it, that I saw these eyes, and we just go with no even talking, kiss and hold and have this emotional contact. Because for me, the public for me is part of the work. Public complete the work. The performance without public don't exist. And the Martha Graham, this great dancer, she said, wherever I dance, there is a holy, wherever dancer dance, there is a holy ground. I don't agree. For me, wherever the public is standing is a holy ground.
And also, I like a lot, Marina, what you said about performance and documentation and performance and archive in a way, and you know, the different relationship. But what is interesting with this book and also what you did, Marco, is that is a documentation, is also in a way an archive, but is also conceptual work. And particularly, and Chris Isles talks very eloquently about that also in the book, the background of the portraits. Because it's not, as we can see, it's not like white or black, but you really thought also about the people around the audience around the person who was sitting across the marina. So there's like these blurry colors are basically the audience, the other people who were in the room.
Yes, this was the other characteristic of this lens that I used. This lens has no depth of field, so the background is totally blurred. I want that because I want to focus only on the eyes, because the eyes were the centerpiece of the performance. I didn't want not the people that work in the background that could affect in any way this portrait. But then after a while, I noticed that the color of the clothes of the people that work could be part of the picture, above all when the color matched the person that I was photographing. So I tried to represent, to photograph in the moment that some people with this coloring clothes work. And then was something that was an aesthetical choice, but in that times I helped in some portraits.
Yeah, and also Chris Isles said how unlike, for example, the portraits that you, like the photos that you took of the churches, like the Duomo, like San Pietro in Italy, that are like, you make this architecture lighter. Here, the portraits become more monumental in a way. And I guess this is like a question that everybody asks you, but it's a bit inevitable. Like, what are your favorite anecdotes, or like what are your favorite moments during those 716 hours and a half?
For Marina?
Both.
My favorite moment was when I used to come back home, because in that moment I download the picture in the computer so I could see the portrait that I took. The most emotional was for sure the last day, because it was something that was incredible. Last day was the atrium was looked like a football stadium. Was totally full. There was my sister, my friends there. And then it was particularly important because in that moment I realized that I managed to photograph all of them, because at the beginning one of my goals, as I said, was to photograph all of them. I didn't know in 3 months what's going to happen. And maybe one day I got sick, maybe family problem, maybe technical problem. So I was worried about to not be able to photograph all of them. And the last day, finally, I realized that I managed. That was an emotional one for me.
Okay. There's so much stories. But let me tell you something that I want to kill somebody that time. I forgive it already, but that time. Okay. For me, it was incredibly important that the David picked me up, then we pick up the Marco, then we go to the museum, then we are there 1.5 hours before anything starts. I go enough time to the bathroom, I dress this dress, there's a ritual going to sit, I sit and start. We start exactly 10 o'clock every single day and finish every single day 6 o'clock when the museum announcement come and say the museum is closing. Then it comes about 15 minutes before closing, and then still people doesn't want to leave. The guards have to move them out. It's all ritual. Finally, everybody leave. Only when Davide comes to me and tap my hand and say everybody's gone, I actually go out of performance state into the myself. Means lie down on the ground in pain, or curl myself in the chair, or go to elevator to go to the bathroom, things like that. Very, very kind of simple. And always finish in the same time. So now come the grand finale. 17,000 people in the audience. Very strange. Some people vomit, some strong the stuff, somebody's drunk, screaming. It's very nervous energy around. And I actually, that morning before starting, the record announcement which is going to be, announced in that time. The museum is closed, artist is present, performance is finished, and amount of hours. And then that's the moment that I will stand up from the chair. I also rehearsed with Tunji, our director of security, because at that time, in the last part of piece, the third months, I removed the table. I found the table ridiculous there because there was a man in a wheelchair in the front of me, and I didn't know if he had legs or doesn't have legs. So I say to Tunji, move the table. We don't need the table. Let's have more contact directly. And Tunji said, but this is your barrier. It's not, security is not good enough. You can't do it, you can't do it. And anyway, there was no knives in the museum like these days. So I said, no, table out. So he removed the table, and we have this very strong, the kind of, moment of that month, just me and audience. And for me, it was the strongest that last month. And now, I asked Klaus Biesenbach to sit on the chair the last 15 minutes of the piece, because there was people, and he made the co-create the show, and I want him to finish the show. And he's self-conscious, difficult for him, and I didn't realize any of this. So, and he have to sit on the chair till announcement on the speaker comes that the museum is closed and performance artist present is finished. For me, it's a holy moment, and every second I is counting and have to be there. Klaus got so self-conscious that 8 minutes before, he stood up from the chair, crossed the part, kissed me, and leave. And I want to kill him. 8 minutes, for me was like 700, this is why it's 30 minutes, that we have counting, little complication. But this was 8 minutes earlier than he's supposed to. So and then I rehearse with the guards. The moment I stand up, they will remove the chairs, and I'm in the middle, greet the public. So the guards are confused, but he left the chair and he kissed me. And the only I could do is to stand up, because the applause in the same time came and was deafening any speaker that would come announcing the museum is closed. And I stand up, and God, I was angry. I was angry for a long, long time. This is like to share this, he will kill me telling the story, but I was angry. Because to me, the performance space is a holy space. You can't pass this. You can't. But in the same time, I have to say that only time that I break this kind of situation, it was on the first day when Ulay, who was my partner for 12 years and who came as a guest of honor to see the show. I have no idea that he was sitting in the front of me. He came and sit in the front of me, and to me, he was not the public. He was somebody I lived for 12 years and make so much performance work. And I break all my rules, and I put my hands and hold his hands, because there was not performance about, it was something else. And this moment, kept, now is 17 million viewers on the YouTube. But this was something that all my life was in the front there, that I had to, but if anybody break rules, is only artists have right to do that.
Yeah, that's the... That's actually a great, I had more questions, but that's a great line to open if there are questions from the audience.
Paco, please, I want you to ask anything.
Paco, is your moment. Again.
Give him the microphone. Yeah. I want to know, I want to ask you the question. I want to know, what makes you sit there 7 hours in the first place? You came to the performance, you have no idea what's happening, you came to the chair, and why actually did you lost sense of time? What happened to you?
It was your charisma,
Take the mask, please, I want to hear it.
Can you hear?
The mask out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your charisma, of course, and your magnetism. I felt like attracted immediately, and opening night, and it's like, oh, I have to come back. And I came back the day after.
Do you have a background in performance that you could sit 7 hours, or?
No.
No.
Well, reading about the rules and everything, because first time I sat for a long time too. And then it was like, oh, what if I sat all day? And I'm not going to be breaking the rules, but so thinking, I came back, and sat 7 hours, you know. I was like, maybe, I was the first one. So I was like, okay, if you're gonna do it, this is the time. And so I dove into it, and it was very, very powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There is a question on the right, or
So, I mean, all this talk about the performance itself, but how do you deal with aftermath? You know, aftermath of the performance when you're done.
the aftermath of the performance, like after so many time, I guess, no? Do you how do you feel empty, like being so much into the project for 3 months?
You mean when I finish it? Yeah. So, to me, I really went through physical and mental and spiritual transformation. I mean, seriously. And then when I stand up from this chair, I was not the same person when I sit in the first day. I was different. And I was the time that actually the idea of institute came to my mind, that I have to make legacy, I have to, you know, learn young performance artists about long durational work of art because it's the most transformative, and how they can develop their own ideas and do this stuff. I have to create something called Abramović method to teach not just the artist, but anybody from the, I don't know, from the farmer to the teacher to the politician about how they can, you know, deal with their own body and their own mind. And that actually, that I realized that now it's not me who have to perform. The public is the work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask, what's the one lesson that you could draw about individuality, about humans, about humanity, the one lesson that you drew, that you learned from everyone, both of you, everyone that you saw, that you experienced in that time?
You first.
I can say the first, before this project, I was more focused on the architectural and people, but in action. I didn't took many portraits of this after this, before this project. After this project, I realized how important is the people in the project. So the project that I did after, I always include people, like the construction site. I photograph the construction site of the magazine Italian Art. I include the portrait of the people that work there. And so I did also in artist studio. So I realized how important are the human part in the projects.
You know, the way how the was lit, you know, the public, and how the photographs that Marco make, they're in very conceptual way. They all look like the same focus, same frame, but there's so many different people, so many different expressions, the old and young and children and the pain and suffering, everything is there. And for me, the biggest experience I have, it was this incredible feeling of unconditional love to all of them. I never had the feeling to anything I've done in my life that my heart was bursting from love. It was like overwhelming experience. Love for human being in general, love for humanity, love for life itself. That was really the most important. You know, I just have to mention now, it's nothing to do with the book or anything, but this what's happening in Ukraine hurts me personally and emotionally in such a deep way, because it's not some kind of war somewhere happening. It's all of us. We are affected. It's really war against humanity, and we have to really take serious steps. I have to say that. And to me, that time, that love I felt, and I continue feeling it.
Hi. I have actually a question for Marco, because I feel that, you know, you're observing this event, and every day you're there, and so it's a lot about looking other people. Did you ever had the feeling that you had to be part of it, as take a picture of yourself. You know, I think the only one missing basically of this whole performance, if you see all the people, it's you know, as a person. Did you ever had like a feeling like taking a self-portrait or?
I have to say, Marina once said that the people use her as a mirror to reflect themselves and to think about it. In certain way, during this performance, I used the participant to reflect Marina's work. And that was the point of this project. So was the intimacy of this project was just the reflection of the Marina's work on all these people.
No.
It's an interesting question, actually, to think about. Yeah.
Yes, actually, said I can't blame Klaus Biesenbach because at the end, because in the last day I said, not because I want to perform, I just want to say hello to Marina. But when I sit in front, I was in the middle of the atrium, middle of the audience, I was so nervous, so anxious. At a certain point, I felt also bad because I skipped the line because I was working. And then at a certain point, I thought I had to go because I thought I was been sitting for 15, 20 minutes. And then when I stand up and left, I realized I was sitting only 2 minutes in front of her. So I can't blame it all.
But I really, you know, there was the three of us in this piece constantly connected. Davide, you have to say something. How was for you this whole journey with two of us and you?
You sit for more than 2 minutes, Davide. You sat.
Just about all.
I sat for 9 minutes on Workers' Day to make a point.
But not about sitting, more about, you know, doing this, all of us together.
Well, it was one of the most powerful experiences in my life. And
you don't say this easily, generally.
no, I don't. I
So
don't have
I'm
that
very
many
much-
seminal experience like that. It was an honor and a pleasure, and dividing it with the two of you in a very functional way. I was just the caretaker, let's say. It was really something special that gave me like a point of view that is unique and very private and very humble, but yeah, that I will cherish forever. So, thank you.
Thank you. You know you're
Thank you to
minimalist.
That's Davide, because there was one of the photos in the book, and that was a slide that Davide, when you're like against, I know exactly what that little room in the museum with the screens, with the TV screens and the video recorders, that he's putting the patch on your back. That's Davide, no?
The David was putting patches of the, you know, the Chinese patches on my back because I was just hell.
She gave me the mic.
Yeah.
2 questions. First of all, was there, I'm sure with every person, obviously different thoughts went through your mind, but for both of you seeing these people sit, was there one thought that kind of kept coming back, or like a recurring thing you thought of, or was it just something different every time?
Did you have always the same thought, or your thoughts were like changing, you know? Like, or did
It
you
was
have a
every time
recurrent thought?
different. I can assure you that it was every time. That was one of the most beautiful things of this performance. That every day we didn't know how many people is going to sit in front of Marina. We didn't know which kind of people and which kind of reaction they could have. I try at beginning to figure out, because just to better organize my work, but it was technically impossible to understand how long they're going to sit and which kind of reaction. Every day was different. I can tell you, after this performance, I could keep going to photograph, because every day was a surprise.
You know, there was so many, there's never the same. Every person is different. And there was people who was very pretentious and they came there in the kind of position. But after really been looking for a while in my eyes, all this dropped down and true self comes out. It's really important. The experience really relates to the amount of time you want to spend with me. If you want 1 minute, you get 1 minute to experience. If you want 20, you get 20. If you have 1 hour, something seriously start happening different. So it's really measure the amount of your time you want to give for this experience. But it's also in life, you know, if you really deep experience, need time.
My last question was, if you, given all of the physical pain and the emotional, everything that you went through, would you ever do it again in this format?
You know, the performances I done generally, the one, I will never give permission. I'll create this whole idea of re-performance, that you can perform my historical pieces, but also historical pieces from other artists. I've been very criticized for this because they say this is original piece, you can't touch it. I don't think this way. I think that the art have to have its own free life. And if I'm not there and somebody is able to do it, why not? If people perform Bach and Beethoven, Mozart can perform also the performance. So I will never give permission for something is life danger, but I will give permission for different works, which I did. And like the one work is not easy to perform, which was done in Sean Kelly Gallery. It was House with Ocean View, which is 12 days in the gallery on the steps with the leather knives. You can't talk, and you don't drink anything but just water for 12 days. And I have 2 already performance people who done this piece, one in Bonn and one, I think, Louisiana Museum. And nobody ever asked to perform Artist is Present, ever. Except 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call. Oh, this is totally new. I got a phone call from somebody in India, and she's a young artist called Vandana, and she said, I want to perform House with Ocean, not House with Ocean, the Artist is Present in totally. And this is the first time somebody asked. And I was so impressed. You know why? Because lots of my practice and, you know, going to the meditations and retreats and stuff all come from India, because I learned there stuff in a very tough way, how to deal with the body, that I can do what I'm doing. So nobody, if anybody will do something, should be Indian artists, because it's really coming back what I get from there and now giving back into the West. So I asked her, if she really want to do this, we had several Zoom calls that she will come to me, that I will personally, you know, teach her and prepare her to do this work. And if this is going to happen, we are planning to perform Artist is Present in full for the My Royal Academy show next year in London, 2023. And this could be like a huge thing for me, so.
Well, that's a great, I think we have one more question. Yeah.
I just have one question. Why do you think people were crying? Do you think it was from your presence? And did you have an experience where people were actually bursting with laughter? Why there was so much crying involved into this
I have
project?
one person not crying. It was only one person who was laughing all the time. Patti Smith. Patty's, I have no idea why. She sit on the chair and she laughed her head off. And it was like, wow. It was the only one I didn't cry. I mean, the most get serious, whatever, cry. And there was another Tibetan Lama who came, which, you know, he was my teacher for a long, long time. And he came as a surprise. Friend of mine actually brought him from India. And he was the last day sitting with me, I think around 20 minutes. And he never looked at my eyes, ever. He was just looking around all the time. And then I say, but you know, Rinpoche, I say, but Rinpoche, why you never look at me? He said, why I should look at you? I'm protecting you.
Well, that's a great line to finish, I would say. Thank you so much, Marco, and thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you.